Rich, poor, sad, happy, mad, I'm the same motherfucker. I'm the same dude that shows you I got big balls. All you have in this life is your balls and your word. And I hang that shit on everybody, straight up.
Because you guys overrate everything. You guys hate on me because I'm pretty and shit. Man, that's fucked up.
Ryan, he's crazy. I don't know. He's crazy. Talk about rematch.
It feels better to be a child of God, to be honest. My father.
He's great for boxing. I think he's a liability. I think he's a loose cannon.
Because he has the talent to be an all-time great fighter. He has to think about when he lost to Rolly and how he was crying.
The thing I love about this sport, it's the most truthful sport in the world. You could be the good guy or the bad guy, the truth wins.
Always protect the children. Protect the children.
There is a moment in every fighter's life when the noise outside the ring becomes louder than the man inside it. For Ryan Garcia, the moment came on Saturday night in Las Vegas. Under the bright lights of T-Mobile Arena, he stood across from the man they called Tank Gervonta Davis, a knockout artist who had never met an equal. The world expected Ryan to be destroyed. The internet had already written the script. He was too soft, too distracted, too famous for Instagram to be a real fighter. But Ryan Garcia was never just a boxer. He was a kid from Beterbiev, California, who grew up in a house where the walls shook with an argument and the streets offered a future that didn't include boxing. He used his fists to escape and he smiled to build an empire. He became a superstar before he ever won a world title. In that fame, the constant digital roar nearly swallowed him alive. Mental breakdowns, public meltdowns, cancelled fighting, an accusation that he was all hype, all of it led to the one night against the most dangerous lightweight on the planet. This is the story of a young man who had to lose himself before he could find out who he really was. Here is a story about the pressure of being the face of new generation and the brutal education that comes when you finally step into the fire. Drive 2 hours east to the high desert of Victorville. It is a place where the heat bakes the pavement and the American dream feels like a distant rumor. Ryan was born there in 1998, the son of Mexican-American father Henry and mother Lisa, who worked tirelessly to keep the family together. But the family was fractured. His parents divorced when he was young, and the household he grew up in was filled with tension, shouting and instability. Ryan found his escape in a small boxing gym run by a man named Hector Lopez. From the age of 7, he would walk through those doors and leave the chaos behind. He was a natural lightning, fast hands, a left hook that seemed to defy physics, and the charisma that made people stop and watch. But he was also a kid who carried the weight of his family's struggles. His older brother, Sean, struggled with an addiction and would later serve time in prison. Ryan would visit him behind bars, and those visits planted a seed. He would fight so his family never had to. By the time he was a teenager, Ryan was already a national sensation in the amateur ranks. He won 15 national titles, amassed a record of 2015 wins with an only 50 losses, and became the youngest fighter ever to sign with an Golden Boy promotion at the age of 17. Oscar de la Hoya looked at him and saw the future. But Ryan Garcia was not Oscar de la Hoya. He was a kid from the desert who suddenly had money, fame and a following that was growing faster than his boxing skill could keep up. He started posting on social media videos of his speed bag work, his chiseled abs, his flashy lifestyle. The followers came in waves, millions of them. He became the first boxer to truly break through on Instagram and TikTok, turning himself into a brand before he had ever fought for a world title. And while attention made him rich, it also painted a target on his back. The old school boxing pursuits hated him. They called him an influencer, pretty boy, a hype job. They said he cared more about likes than legacy. Ryan heard every word, and it fed a fire inside him that burned hot but also unpredictable. Between 2018 and 2020, Ryan Garcia's professional career accelerated faster than anyone expected. He He was knocking out opponents with that devastating left hook, the one that became known as the Garcia's bomb. But more than the knockouts, it was the way he carried himself. He challenged every big name in the division. Gervonta Davis, Devin, Haney, Teofimo, Lopez. He would call them out on Twitter, then go back to Instagram to post a video of himself in Lamborghini. The fight that made Warler take him seriously was against Luke Campbell in January 2021. Campbell was an Olympic gold medalist, a seasoned veteran who had gone the distance within the beast. It was supposed to be the test that exposed Ryan as a fraud. Instead, Ryan was knocked down in the second round, the first time he had ever tasted the canvas as a pro. For a moment, the narrative seems written. He was hurt, his legs were shaky, and the millions of followers watching expected him to fold. But Ryan Garcia did something that night that changed how people saw him. He got up, he shook off the dust, and in the 7th round, he unleashed a left hook to Campbell's liver that crumpled the Olympian to the canvas. The knockout was viral. It was the moment the influencer became a contender. He won the WBC interim lightweight title, and suddenly the heat turned into expectation. But the pressure of expectation was heavier than anyone knew. In the months after the Campbell fight, Ryan's mental health began to unravel. He withdrew from a fight against Javier Fortuna, citing mental health struggle. He posted cryptic messages on social media, then deleted them. The boxing media turned on him again. Now he was fragile, mentally weak, a quitter. He checked into a facility to get help, and the silence from his camp was deafening. Many assumed his career was over before it had truly begun. When he returned, it was with a new trainer, a new focus, and a new sense of urgency. He knocked out Fortuna in 6th round. He stopped Emmanuel Taguay. The hype was back, but so was the target. The one name that had always haunted him, the one that represented everything he was accused of ducking, was Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis was the dark mirror of Ryan Garcia. Where Ryan was flashy and accessible, Tank was cold and menacing. Where Ryan sold tickets within his smile, Tank sold pay-per-views within his knockout power. Both were undefeated, both carried the weight of their promoters, Ryan under Oscar de la Hoya, Tank under Floyd Mayweather. For years, the fight was the most talked about matchup in lighter weight classes, but it always seemed impossible to make. The negotiations were a circus. Ryan called out Tank on social media, then disappeared. Tank called Ryan a YouTube boxer. The fans grew tired of his back and forth. Then in 2023, something shifted. Ryan Garcia left Golden Boy Promotion, at least temporarily, to make the fight happen on his own terms. He partnered within the streaming service DAZN and accepted a rehydration clause that put him at a disadvantage. Many said he was a fool for taking the fight under those terms. Others said it was the only way to get it done. The press tour was chaos. Ryan showed up to the first press conference in a full face mask, refusing to speak. Tank stared through him. They traded insult, then treaties, then nearly came to blows. Ryan predicted a knockout in the 2nd round. Tank promised to send him to sleep. The betting odds heavily favored Davis. Ryan was seen as the underdog within the faster hands but the weaker chin. The world was ready to watch the influencer get exposed. But Ryan Garcia, the kid from Beterbiev who had been counted out his whole life, saw something different. He saw a chance to silence every critic, every doubter, every voice that said he was a top. April 22, 2023, T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas. The atmosphere was electric. A sold-out crowd split between the Mexican-American fans of Garcia and Baltimore faithful of Davis. The fight was scheduled at a catch weight of 136 pounds within a rehydration clause. That meant Ryan couldn't weigh more than 146 pounds. The morning of the fight, the odds were stacked against him before he ever stepped through the ropes. From the opening bell, the difference in experience was clear. Ryan came out with an explosive speed, firing his jab and looking for the left hook that had ended so many nights early. But Tank Davis was a master of distance and timing. He slipped Ryan punches within subtle movements, waiting for the mistake that all young aggressive fighters make. The first few rounds were tense. Ryan landed the cleaner shots, jabs, straight rights, but Tank was patient. He walked Ryan down, cutting off the ring, forcing the younger man to expend energy. By the third round, Ryan's output has slowed. His legs, which were usually so bouncy, began to look heavy. The rehydration clause was having its effect. In the fourth round, Tank landed a left hand that buzzed Ryan. It wasn't a knockout blow, but it was a message. Then came the seventh. Tank fainted to the body and Ryan beat. He dropped his left hand for a split second, and Tank uncorked a perfectly timed left uppercut to the liver. The punch landed flush just below the ribcage. Ryan Garcia's body betrayed him. He crumpled to the canvas, writhing in pain, his face a mask of shock and agony. He tried to get up. He beat the count, but his body wouldn't cooperate. The referee waved it off. It was over. Gervonta Davis had done what he said he would do. He had knocked out Ryan Garcia, and in that moment, as Ryan lay on the canvas, the years of hype, the social media bravado, it all felt hollow. The boxing world had its verdict. The influencer had been exposed. The loss to Tank Davis was supposed to be the end of Ryan Garcia. The critics were merciless. They said he was overrated, that he never had the heart for the sport. But in the weeks that followed, something strange happened. The conversation shifted. People started to talk about the rehydration clause, the catch weight, the fact that Ryan had taken a dangerous fight on terms that favored his opponent. And Ryan himself didn't hide. He went on social media, took the loss on the chin and started talking about the lesson he learned. He also started talking about the things that had been eating at him long before the fight. He opened up about his mental health. He struggled with the anxiety, the pressure of being a role model when he felt like he was falling apart. He spoke about his brother's incarceration, his father's health, the weight of carrying a family on his shoulder. The man who had been dismissed as a pretty boy suddenly delivered a depth that no one had seen. He parted ways with a long-time trainer, Joey Gusan, and started training within the legendary Jake James. He began talking about redemption, proving that one loss doesn't define a career. And while the fight with Tank Davis closed the one chapter, it also opened a new one. A chapter where Ryan Garcia is no longer just the hype, but a fighter who has been tasted by fire and is still standing. The story of Ryan Garcia is not finished. It may never be finished in the way a perfect fairy tale would end. Still young, still fast, still carrying the hopes of a generation of fans who discovered boxing through his video. But what makes his story compelling is not the knockout of Luke Campbell or the millions of followers. It is the willingness to fall, to admit weakness and to get back up.